Now this y is nothing but my TSS. My RSS is nothing but the amount of variability that is left unexplained after the performance of regression. So now next one is nothing but my y of hat, which is nothing but y of regression. So this actually gives you what exactly the variation in the output is. So this y without regression, y hat with regression is basically TSS and RSS respectively. And we used to calculate R2 parameter with this, which is nothing but y actual minus y predict upon my y actual. So the value of this R square or R2 is being given by this factor. It ranges from 0 to 1 that I actually told right now. So it's 0 means that the dependent variables cannot be predicted from the independent variable. What we mean by this? Yes, anyone? What we mean by this? That it simply says that that dependent variable cannot be predicted from the independent variable. Okay, if I say 10% of the class qualifies for pursuing data science, what does this mean? Yes, class, what does this mean? 10% of the class qualifies for pursuing data science. Anyone? Please, class, it's just a percentage. Just tell me.
10% of total strength.
Is actually qualify is are the 10% of the total strength is actually ready or qualifies the basic properties required for the data science. So they are eligible to pursue data science, or I should say 10% is the eligible class. Remaining 90% is
Not eligible.
not eligible. Fine. So if I'll talk in terms of this, in the same manner, this R2 will tell you something. It says R2 of 0. That means that the dependent variable cannot predict from the independent variable. That means I have eligible कैंडिडेट्स के लिए मेरा एक डेटा सेट था जिसमें मेरे को y से पता चला whether they are eligible or not, and x is the parameter which is independent variable which actually has the information which defines whether the particular person is eligible or not. If we are saying the ratio, this R2 value, if it is coming out to be 0, it simply says whatever value x will be having, y is not able to be predicted by x. So now your dependent variable, basically y, which simply says that whether the person is eligible or not. X is not providing the information or the right amount of information. We can simply state that whether the person is eligible or not for pursuing data science. So it simply says अगर 0 पर 0 आता है, इसका मतलब क्या हुआ, y ठीक से आउटपुट नहीं देगा, y का आउटपुट ठीक नहीं आएगा, दैट मींस प्रेडिक्शन गलत ही आएगी. What we mean by R2 equal to 1? It says a dependent variable can be predicted without error from the independent variable. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Last class में when we did this experiment, so I hope ऐसा ही कुछ experiment से हमारा response आ रहा था. So I just, when I am talking about these two values, or in fact these three values, my R2 square is nothing but R2 is nothing but 0. अगर मैं इससे फिर इस तीन सेट की बात करती हूँ, because actual value has to come out to be 2 for the value of 1, but it is coming out to be 0.44 or 0 minus 0.03. And similarly for x value 2, y is coming out to be 1, which is giving you a value of 3.08, which is the predicted value. That means they are not giving the right kind of information so that the predicted and the actual one is matching, or the error is minima. But over here, after your 4, just give me 2 minutes. Sorry, class. Okay. I hope I am audible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. For this case, if we'll go only for these three values, suppose I have only these three values for my data set, if I'll test and predict, so undoubtedly my value for R2 will be coming out to be 0 or something near to 0. Maybe 0.1 or 0.2. But for these cases, my R2 will be very high. It will be uh, almost 1 or nearing to 1. That means it could be 0.85, 0.8, 0.7, 0.9, anything. So value of R2 equal to 0 will be simply saying that the prediction is not right because there is something that is not being defined. And for R2 equal to 1, it simply says that the prediction is 100%. Okay, is it clear to everyone at this point? Here. So if I want to read it out in such a manner that R2 between 0 and 1 indicates the extent to which the dependent variable is predicted. For example, 0.20 means that 20% of the variance in Y is predictable from X. That means from total data set, only 20% of the data points are predictable. Remaining 80% are not. So over here, 10% are predictable, remaining 90% is not at all predictable. That means we can simply say that yes, they are not eligible or they are eligible, but remaining not eligible candidates, I can't predict out. Similarly, R2 of 40% means 40% is predictable and so on. So what we want to have. Okay class, just tell me, R2 कितना होना चाहिए? If it has to lie between 0 to 1, so what to define out exactly? I can say yes, R2 is equal to this much, then we can simply say yes, the model is predicting fine. Let's understand one thing. When R2 is equal to 0, is it underfitting or overfitting?
Underfitting.
Underfitting.
And when R2 is equal to 1, it is?
Overfitting.
So now just tell me, what could be the promising value of R2? What could be? See, it is not defined, but we can understand what exactly could be the promising value where we can simply say that, yes, the accuracy is good.
0.5.
Can we simply say that anything greater than 0.5 for R2 will simply give a promising value for the model?
Yes, ma'am.
So it is always defined in such a manner that R2 should be greater than equal to 0.5. So it is not defined. We are simply saying at 0 it is underfitting, at 1 it is overfitting. So undoubtedly 0.5 से लेकर के 1 के बीच में जो भी value आएगी, that will simply define whether the model is perfectly working or not. Fine. अगर 0.5 से नीचे कम आती है, 0.2 or 0.4, definitely the model is not the good one to be. So we have to tune it. At this point, it is clear to everyone. Class, this point, what does root mean square? I will not do it today. We'll discuss it on, I guess, Monday. So let's talk about the practical now. Can we shift to our practical now? Can we start with the practical class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, class. See, there are a number of things that is not being covered in the theoretical part. That means आपका जो मैटप्लॉटलिब है, आपने मैटप्लॉटलिब में क्या क्या सीखा है?
मैम ग्राफ्स बनाना.
वेरी गुड. मैटप्लॉटलिब है ही ग्राफ बनाने के लिए. ग्राफ में क्या बनाना सीखा है? कौन कौन से ग्राफ सीखे हैं?
Bar chart, histogram,
Okay, so that means I can assume that where we have to use bar graph, bar plot, and where we have to use histogram, you people are very much aware of. Idea है सबको?
Yes, ma'am.
तो बस एक चीज ना हमेशा याद रखना. My data has to be normally distributed. Getting my point? It has to be normally distributed. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि अगर मैं इसको इसकी मिडिल पोजीशन पे काउंट करती हूँ या मीन पोजीशन पे काउंट करती हूँ, इससे पहले और इसके बाद डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन है. दिस इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. ये वाला जो पूरा पॉइंट जा रहा है, दिस इज बेसिकली द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. फाइन. ये डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेम होनी चाहिए बोथ द साइड ऑफ द मीन. So if I'll divide my distribution at this point, let this be point of sigma 1. standard deviation 1, and this point be again sigma 1. This is negative sigma 1, this is positive sigma 1. So इस point पर जो distribution है from this point to this point, this has to be, कौन है, शिका. So at this point ये जो distribution है ये दोनों तरफ same होनी चाहिए. So this is something called as normal distribution. तो सबसे पहली चीज याद रखने वाली बात है, you have to go for a normal distribution system. अगर ये नॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड नहीं है, आई होप याद होगा मैंने एक दिन एक डायग्राम अपना दिखाया था जहां मैंने तुम्हें दिखाया था इट इज लाइक दिस, या फिर वो
Yes, ma'am.
कुछ ऐसा दिख सकता है. तो क्लास दिस इज दी, I shouldn't follow these two. It shouldn't be like normally distributed. It should be like normally distributed. If it is not, then we have to rework on it. So undoubtedly, theoretical आ जाएगा, लेकिन practically बहुत सारी चीजें छूटती जाएंगी. So what we'll do, we'll incorporate everything in your practical class. I'll make sure of it. डेटा एनालिसिस के लिए जो जो कमांड्स और जो जो टर्म्स की रिक्वायरमेंट है वो तुम्हें सारा कराऊंगी in the practical. So basically understand the thing that this is not just a theoretical concept, it is totally a practical thing. जितना खुद से सीखोगे, जितना खुद से प्रैक्टिस करोगे उतना अच्छे से आएगा. अगर ये प्रैक्टिकल आज तुम्हें समझ में आ जाएगा, नेक्स्ट टाइम ऑनवर्ड्स मुझे तुम्हें कुछ नहीं बताना, मुझे सिर्फ तुम्हें ये बोलना है कि सॉल्व दिस पर्टिकुलर प्रॉब्लम यूजिंग सिंपल कोड वेक्टर मशीन और डिसीजन ट्री और रैंडम फॉरेस्ट. पूरा कोड सेम रहेगा, सिर्फ एक टेक्निकल टर्म चेंज हो जाएगी. So let's talk about it. So we all know what is called numpy. Numpy is numpy array के लिए. Pandas is for loading. Matplotlib for plotting. Cbon I'll tell you. जब मैं शो करूंगी तो Cbon वहीं पर समझ में आ जाएगा. Now class, this command. Iris is equal to dataset.load. So Python has a package जिसमें हम pandas के थ्रू libraries कॉल करते हैं. पाइथन में कुछ ऐसे डेटा सेट हैं जो ऑलरेडी प्रीलोडेड है, वहीं से उसे कॉल कर रहे हैं. सो राइट नाउ व्हाट वी आर सिंपली सेइंग, वी आर सेइंग कि sklearn एक लाइब्रेरी, एक पैकेज है जिसके अंदर एक डेटाबेस का अपना लाइब्रेरी है. उस डेटा सेट के अंदर बहुत सारे नहीं, कुछ 4 to 5 सेट्स हैं जो कि ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ आई शो यू ओवर हियर, so if I'll show you over here, so यहाँ पे सबको दिख रहा है कैलिफोर्निया हाउसिंग टेस्ट, एमनेस्ट टेस्ट, एमनेस्ट ट्रेन, कैलिफोर्निया हाउसिंग ट्रेन, ये दिख रहा है. अगर तुम जनरली सर्च करने की कोशिश करोगे तो तुम्हें पता चलेगा कैलिफोर्निया हाउसिंग इज बेसिकली अ डेटा सेट जिसमें आप प्राइस ऑफ अ हाउस बाइंग और सेलिंग प्रेडिक्ट करते हो. ये बहुत ही फेमस डेटा सेट है. अगर आप कैगल पे जाके देखोगे, टिल नाउ द कंपटीशन इज ऑन. It's from past 9 to 10 years. MNIST data set is very popular. It is basically for the image recognition. उसमें क्या है, यूएस ने एक सर्वे करा था, स्टडी करा था, जिसमें उन्होंने हैंड रिटन आर्टिकल्स, स्पेसिफिकली न्यूमेरिकल डेटा 1 2 3 4 कुछ 150 और 200 कैंडिडेट से लिखवा करके मशीन लर्निंग मॉडल को लर्न कराया था, एंड दे वर एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई मोर देन 95% कि ये हैंड रिटन डिजिट है क्या. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ आई वांट टू, एमनिस का मतलब क्या है, बेसिकली इट इज 1 2 3 4 5. So now this 5 is not looking like just 5 because 6 is also looking like this. So automatically मेरा हैंड रिटन कुछ डिफरेंट है. अगर नियति लिखेगी तो नियति का हैंड रिटन डिफरेंट है, सुरभि लिखेगी तो सुरभि का हैंड रिटन डिफरेंट है. सो वी वर हैविंग n number of people who had written these digits from 0 to 9. और एमनेस डेटा सेट इसे कहा जाता है. और जितने भी इमेज प्रोसेसिंग के टूल्स आए हैं आज तक, वो सबसे पहले एमनेस डेटा सेट पर काम करते हैं, so that they can easily identify this segment what exactly it is properly working or not. So this is basically, these are the preloaded data sets. So similarly, what we did over here, we simply called iris data set from the data set of the sklearn package. So from this command, this is iris is equal to data set. Data set is basically the library of the sklearn package dot load iris. So now iris is basically the name of the data set. Getting my point, class? Is it clear to till this point?
Yes, ma'am.
After this, what we did, अब हमने सिर्फ लोड किया है. लोड करने का मतलब क्या है, हमने कॉल कर लिया है वो डेटा सेट, बट वी डोंट नो एग्जैक्टली व्हाट इट इज लुकिंग लाइक. तो हमारा काम क्या होता है, पाइथन हमेशा डेटा फ्रेम पे काम करने की कोशिश करता है, या फिर हमें उसे बताना पड़ता है कि हमें डेटा फ्रेम पे नहीं काम करना, हमें लिस्ट पे काम करना है या हमें एरे पे काम करना है, हमें उसे बताना पड़ेगा. So over here, after loading the data set, we have to create the data frame. Now the data frame simply says that pd dot data frame, किसका data frame बनाना है? iris dot data. तो iris dot data का मतलब क्या हुआ? iris data set के अंदर जो data है उसका data frame बनाना है हमें. So this is what exactly it is being called. Class, अगर तुम data pd dot data frame डालोगे गूगल पे तो वो उसका सिंटेक्स खोल के दिखाएगा. पैकेट के अंदर everything is being called as argument. So data is the argument in that. You have to define your what data set you are working on. कॉलम्स का मतलब होता है कि हमें किस पर काम कराना है, पूरे डेटा सेट पे काम कराना है या कुछ स्पेसिफिक डेटा सेट के अंदर के कॉलम्स को ही डेटा फ्रेम में इनकॉर्पोरेट करना है. फॉर एग्जांपल, आई हैव मैथ्स, फिजिक्स, साइंस, केमिस्ट्री, मैथ्स, फिजिक्स, साइंस, सोशल स्टडी. I don't want to have social study in my data set. So what I'll do, I'll simply mention over here column name will be maths, science, and your physics. I will not use social study in that particular what will happen the moment I'll call the data frame, it will have only 3 columns with all the possible values because the data has been called. So initially iris.data will be giving you the values of the data set. Column will be giving you the what amount of columns you are calling for. So we are having 4 columns for the data set, that is sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width. But the 5th column was the class. We just called only the feature name. We didn't call the table or the class or the output. हमने वो call नहीं किया है. So till this point, we just called the values of the data along with the column. After this, iris underscore data df is basically the variable in which my data frame has been saved. Now this variable, whenever I'll call it up, it will always give me the data frame. So now my data frame is looking like this. Is it okay till this point? This class, is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So class over here, see it is being written as 150 rows, 4 columns. So it is already giving you the shape. So if I am writing something like this, so वो automatically मुझे shape लिख करके देगा. मैं show कर देती हूँ साथ साथ. I'll go with run on. So now it is just giving me the shape of the data set. If I will define it just like this, it will give me only the data frame. Now it will take time. Why? Because already जितना भी मैंने इस फाइल के अंदर डेटा डाला हुआ था, जो जो प्रोग्रामिंग स्किल्स डाली हुई थी, वो सारी एग्जीक्यूशन के बाद it will calculate come out to be this one, this frame. So now it is giving you the output. If I'll say head, by default it will give you first 5 values. If I'll give tail, by default it will give you the last 5 values. But if I'll mention something like this, some number, so it will be giving me the first 9 values. Okay? I hope it's clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Gyasa, बहुत जल्दी आ गए बेटा. So after this, what we did, it's always good to give the captions or commenting. Right? So it says print the shape of the data set. So we have the data set shape. And it is the information. So I will not say the information. It is always being called as the summary of. So आज के बाद याद रखना. I called it to be the summary. Whenever we need the summary of a data set, we used to call it by .info. आपके फाइल का नाम या आपके डेटा फ्रेम का नाम followed by .info. So information is basically called as summary. For our case, it is being called as summary. Now this summary will be giving you all the possible values. What it is defining? कितने columns है? Column के नाम क्या है? किस तरीके का डेटा टाइप है वो? कितनी उसमें null values है? ये सारी वैल्यू ये पूरा का पूरा समरी देता है. So it simply says the range index from 150 entries. So total entries are 150. It starts from 0 to 149 क्योंकि indexing हमेशा 0 से शुरू होती है. Total number of columns are 4. उसके बाद वो कॉलम के नाम दे रहा है, simultaneously null values का count. That means sepal length के अंदर कितना total null values है उसका count दे रहा है. That is 150 non null values. That means there is no null value. Then after that there is a data type. So now it is float 64. And description of the data set. So class, just understand, description of the data set is very, very important and very helpful for the analysis. So over here, it is first thing, it is showing you the count, which is coming out for all the values of the columns. It is 150. Next, it is the mean. Now just check the mean and the 50%. Now this 25%, 50% and 75% are basically the quartiles. So 50% means basically the mean in terms of quartile. So if it is ध्यान से देखोगे, so this value 5.84 as a mean and 5.80, they are hardly varied.
Yes, ma'am.
So basically that means sepal length के अंदर there is no variation, they are normally distributed.
Normally distributed.
Similarly, if I talk about your value of petal width, it is coming out to be, mean is coming out to be 1.19, 50% is coming out to be 1.30. So we can say that yes, there is a variation. So they might be minorly skewed. Minorly skewed का मतलब हो सकता है it can be left skewed or it can be right skewed. That depends on जब हम उसे plot करके देखेंगे. Getting my point, class? Similarly, if I talk about the petal length, it is coming out to be 3.75 for the mean, but 50% is coming out to be 4.35. Again, the same thing. It could be skewed. It is almost normally distributed. लेकिन अगर ये 3.75 का 8.75 आ रहा होता या 3.75 का 1.75 आ रहा होता तो definitely it is not at all normally distributed. Fine? Getting my point, class? Clear हुआ? Now the min value and the max value is basically showing you the minimum value that the data set is holding for all the columns. It is 4.3 for sepal length, 2 is for sepal width. Petal length ke liye it is 1 and 0.1 for petal width. Now it is the minimum value that is being holded by the data set, and the maximum value is coming out to be 7.9, 4.4, 6.9. Now just think about petal width. 0.1 is the minimum value and 2.55 is the maximum value. Think about 150 data points. इसका मतलब it is very variedly presented. Getting my point? 0.1 minimum value, maximum value 2.5 है. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Data points are large in number. काफी ज्यादा varied data होगा, sparse data होगा. Clear हुआ यहाँ तक?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So let's move ahead. We call the names of the 4 features. This is how we call. Print iris dot features name. Now it is giving you sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. And बिल्कुल देख लो आराम से. Exactly वही है जैसे लिखा हुआ है यहाँ पर column name. So column names are coming out over here. Now since, tell me class, iris data set is the classification problem or a regression problem? There were 3 outputs, 3 classes जो अभी मैं आगे दिखाऊंगी भी. There are 3 classes: Setosa, versicolor and virginica. So is it a classification problem or a regression problem?
Ma'am, classification.
If it is a classification problem, so that means it will be working as a true, false and maybe categories अलग-अलग हो सकती है classification में. Now the problem is classification is always a categorical problem, discrete problem, true, false, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Getting my point? Regression problem is a continuous valued problem. That means वहां पर क्या है? वहां पर कोई class नहीं है. वहां पर it is being defined as it is belonging to this different set of outputs are coming out to be. Getting my point, class? It is a numerical problem majorly. But over here, because it is a categorical problem, what we have to go for is every now and then calling a setosa उसको नहीं समझ में आएगा. Calling versicolor or virginica, again it is a problem. So what we did, we simply converted target value. So right now it is already present in the observation, I mean data set. वहां पर उसने अपने target values already define करी हुई है by the name of 0, 1 and 2. Right? So now this actually data set is giving you how much amount of zeros are there, how much amount of ones are there, and how much amount of twos are there. So basically it is giving you the total value, all the values of the class or the label or the output of the data set. So these are 150, out of which 50 belongs to 0 class, 50 belongs to 1 class, and 50 belongs to 2 class. That means 50 belongs to Setosa, 50 belongs to versicolor, and 50 belongs to virginica. Is it okay? Now ये already था. Right? क्लियर है यहाँ तक? किसी को डाउट तो नहीं है?
No, ma'am.
Okay. After this, we'll create again the data set. Now the problem is we are having the features column in one thing and output in one thing. So what we did, we call the iris df, in which we have the data set and the column names, and we call the target. Now what we did, we have these two values. That means we have iris data set जिसमें से 4 columns है, और we have target value जिसमें सिर्फ एक column है. Basically what we have to create a table जिसमें हमारे पास x1, x2, x3, x4 and finally class. ऐसा कुछ होना चाहिए. So it has to have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So it has to have 150 values followed by 5 columns. But now the problem is I have one data set which is having 150 cross 4 and another data set which has 1 cross 150 values. So class is having one row with 150 values and x1, x2, x3, x4 is having 150 rows with 4 values. So what I have to go for? We have to simply go for creating the total data frame, complete data set. So हमने यहाँ तक कॉल किया. कॉल करने के बाद over here, because we were having the values of 0, 1 and 2. So what we did, we simply reconverted. Okay. We have to reconvert it. So what we did, क्योंकि हमारे पास categorical data है, that is 0, 1 and 2, we reconverted. What we did, iris type we created. We said, एक function लगाया converter नाम का, जिसमें हमने कहा iris data set data iris type is the argument. We said अगर iris type is equal to 0, that it belongs to class Setosa. If it is equal to 1, then it is versicolor. And if it is not 0 and 1, then it is basically virginica. Clear हुआ?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. After this, what we did, we call the target df with the iris type. So अब हमने क्या करा? Target में जो नाम था इस column का, iris type, इसको अब हमने reframe करा with the change variable that we had. So now after calling it, तो हमने यहाँ पे क्या बोला? Iris underscore type, target df iris underscore type, apply the converter. Apply converter का मतलब इस function को apply करो किस पर? इस column पर, iris underscore type पर. और किस में भेजा गया? iris underscore type पर. अगर मैं इसको यहाँ पर 1 लिख देती हूँ class, so see what will happen. So class, what will happen? Over here, iris type already exists कर रहा था 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 2 3 classes में था. Now it will be iris type underscore type 1. So what I did, I created another column. जैसे मैंने एक और कॉलम क्रिएट किया तो इसमें एक और कॉलम यहाँ पर बन करके आ गया. अगर मैं यहाँ पर इसको iris यही रहने देती तो ऑटोमेटिकली what will happen? I'll run it again because वो last वाले से शुरू करना. So now over here it is iris type only. Right? So now there is no 0. It's replace the 0, 1, 2 and by the value name that is Setosa, Virginica and Versicolor. Clear हुआ class? Is it clear to everyone how we used to create another column and how we have to replace the column, add another column? Fine है?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
आपको
ma'am.
क्लियर हुआ है? So over here we are not creating another column. हमने एक ही कॉलम उसी कॉलम के अंदर वैल्यू को रिप्लेस किया है. अगर मैं यहाँ पर iris underscore type 1 कर देती हूँ, that means I am creating another column by the existing column. Now just understand. Whenever we are creating a column using the existing column, that comes under feature engineering. एग्जिस्टिंग डेटा सेट से ही अगर हम कुछ और नए डेटा पॉइंट्स बना पाते हैं या नए कॉलम्स क्रिएट कर पाते हैं, हम उसे कहते हैं फीचर इंजीनियरिंग, एंड दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट ऑफ योर डेटा साइंस. After this, what we did till this point, we did the conversion. But now we have to have complete data set, because my complete data set belongs to 150 cross 5. That means 4 features, 1 output. टोटल वैल्यूज आर 150. सो अनडाउटेडली माय टोटल डेटा सेट का जो शेप होना चाहिए वो क्या होना चाहिए, 150 क्रॉस 5. सो हमने क्या काम किया यहाँ पर, हमने डेटा डेटा सेट को टारगेट को कॉन्कैट कर दिया है. कॉन्कैट करने का मतलब क्या कर दिया है, दोनों को मर्ज कर दिया है, सो दैट इट कैन बी हैव 4 फीचर्स विद 1 क्लास विद आउटपुट बेसिकली एंड 150 कॉलम रोज. इज इट ओके? तो कॉन्कैट का मतलब सबको पता है, जोड़ दिया है, ज्वाइन कर दिया है.
Yes, ma'am.
नाउ क्लास, किसी ने मुझसे ये नहीं पूछा मैम व्हाट इज दिस एक्सेस 1. So whenever we are using columns or we are dropping something, so this axis 1, axis is a very important argument in the parenthesis. It simply has two values, 0 and 1. If I am merging something in terms of row, then I have to write axis is equal to 0. That means I am having 3 different points like this and another 2 different points like this. And if I want to have a combination of this, then it will be looking like this. So ये दोनों plus करके equal to ये बनकर आ रहा है. So for that case, I have to define my axis as 0, row operation. But if I have to work for the column, that means I have these 4 points and I have to join with another 1 point, then it has to be column. Then it is being called as column equal to 1. So over here, because we are joining two different set in terms of column, because हमारा पहले क्या था data set 150 cross 4, we have to go for 150 cross 5. So basically we are adding one more column. तो हमने क्या काम करा, axis is equal to 1 कर दिया. तो automatically मेरे compiler को पता चल चुका है कि आपने column add किया है. Clear है class?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now again the description. Again we are checking it out, so we get to know exactly the values are coming out to be same after using the class. Again we got the information, we got to know there is no null value. So fourth value iris type भी अगर आ गई तो हमें दिख रहा है 150 values are there which are non null values. Now the visualization. Over here I'll show you everything. यहीं पर तुम्हें सब समझ में आ जाएगा. So there was a library or a package import cborn. और लास्ट क्लास में भी मुझसे किसी ने पूछा था मैम ये cborn हमने क्यों किया है या हमें जरूरत है उसे यूज करने की. See, matplotlib package is a very powerful tool for the visualization. All kind of charts you can simply plot. But cborn is another package along with the matplotlib. अगर आप matplotlib को यूज नहीं भी करते हो और आप cborn को यूज करते हो, it is again a very vast tool for the visualization. अगर मुझे ये सारे प्लॉट्स जैसे अभी क्या हुआ, आई जस्ट यूज अ पेयर प्लॉट. पेयर प्लॉट का मतलब क्या है, जितने फीचर्स हैं उन सब के साथ आपको प्लॉटिंग करनी है. तो अगर मुझे ये पेयर प्लॉट बनाना होता, आई शुड हैव कॉल्ड थ्रू द मैटप्लॉटलिब, सो आई हैव टू राइट द बिगेस्ट अमाउंट ऑफ फंक्शन. मुझे हर बार, बिकॉज राइट नाउ सी आई हैव फोर वेरिएबल्स, सो आई हैव हाउ मेनी टोटल वैल्यूज, 4 वेरिएबल्स as features. So 4 into 4 will be 16 plots. So I have to go for each row and column. So it will be like sepal length, sepal length, sepal length, sepal width, sepal length, petal width, sepal length, petal length. It will be like for 4 variables, 4 internal features has to be there. So I have to write a proper function for it, and then I have to call for the matplotlib. But SNS, that is cborn library. cborn library का जब भी हम लोग वर्चुअल लेकर आते हैं, जैसे हम लोग मैटप्लॉटलिब के लिए PLT यूज करते हैं, numpy के लिए NP यूज करते हैं, ऐसे ही cborn के लिए हम लोग SNS यूज करते हैं. So the moment I'll use cborn, it will automatically create. It will be. It is. I mean, it will have these so many functions that can be easily called up, and it can generate a proper graph, proper all the format of the graph. लेकिन मैटप्लॉटलिब में at times थोड़ा सा tedious हो जाता है. तो comparatively working with cborn library is the advanced version of the matplotlib. Clear हुआ class? So what we did, we simply call the pair plot. Pair plot का मतलब क्या होता है? Pair plot का मतलब होता है I have 4 features. So it will create a plot with number of features multiplied by a number of features. So if I have 4 features, so I have 16 plots. So it will be generating, since I have, it is like 4 features as x1, x2, x3, x4. So it will create a feature of x1 with x1, x1 with x2, x2 with x3, x3 with x2, sorry, x1 with x3 and x1 with x4. Similarly, it will create with x of 2 1 with x of 2 with x1, x2 2, x2 x2, x2 x3, x2 x4, and so on. So in totality, I'll have 16 plots. So if I'll see to it, so this first one is sepal length ka plot with sepal length. So sepal length will have normally distributed. अगर तुम ध्यान से देखोगे तो almost they are normally distributed. So whatever we are plotting with matplotlib, अगर मुझे इसे बनाना होता matplotlib के साथ तो मैं कैसे बनाती? I'll have a normally distribution like this. Correct, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
so now it is over histogram. So it's basically giving you the sepal length का total count. अगर तुम इसको अपने पेयर प्लॉट के साथ फर्स्ट वाले प्लॉट के साथ अगर देखोगे तो इट इज कमिंग आउट टू बी ऑलमोस्ट सेम. ये वाला प्लॉट with this plot, it is almost same. Over here the scale is being different by because on the x-axis I am taking the length and on the y-axis I am taking the count of those particular values, but over here it is taking on the y-axis the sepal length values and on the x-axis it is taking the count of the values. Right? After this, the sepal length with the second plot is sepal length with the sepal width. So see, जो second वाला plot है, scatter plot है class.
Yes, ma'am.
So just think about it, how much scatter it is. That means if I'll plot a linear line in between marking the points, so undoubtedly many of the points are above the line and many of the points are below the line. That means if I'll plot it in between over here, suppose यहाँ से मैंने कोई linear line बनी, तो आधे नीचे हैं और आधे ऊपर हैं. इसका मतलब the chances of identifying it will be 50-50%. Right? It couldn't be more than that. लेकिन अगर वही मैं सेपल लेंथ को पेटल विड्थ लेंथ के साथ मर्ज आउट करके देखती हूँ तो यहाँ पे देखो स्पार्सिटी कितनी ज्यादा है. That means if I'll plot something like this, again the same kind of response will be there. Right? And अगर मैं सेपल लेंथ को पेटल विड्थ के साथ प्लॉट करके देख रही हूँ, again it is almost the same pattern जो मुझे पेटल लेंथ के साथ मिल रहा था. दिख रहा है सबको? थर्ड एंड फोर्थ ग्राफ आर ऑलमोस्ट सेम.
Yes, ma'am.
So we can simply say that they both are highly correlated. Can we say that? और अगर तुम ये चारों के लिए देखोगे तो चारों में तुम्हें दिखेगा. See, over here they both are highly correlated. लेकिन अगर मैं थर्ड को फर्स्ट वाले के साथ चेक करके देखूं, they are not. Similarly, if I'll move ahead, over here, ये देखो, this is petal length with petal length. So this is having this histogram, the third one. And the petal width with petal width, they are having the same graph. So petal length and petal width का same graph आ रहा है histogram में, bar plot में.
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, the third and fourth one, these two, they are almost same. So we simply say that petal length and petal width are correlated. That means they are not providing us a very good amount of information. So we can drop any one of them if we want to go for the analysis. This is how actually the visualization helps us. कैसे पता करें कि correlated है या नहीं है. Getting my point, class?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear हुआ? After this is what exactly I wanted you people to see कि exactly हम लोग कैसे दिखता है bar plot. And this is KDE plot. KDE plot basically होता है normal distribution के लिए. Gaussian distribution and normal distribution are same. So what I did, I just plot the data with sepal length. Now what I want from you people that all the 4 variables should be plotted. So I want another 3 graphs for sepal width, petal length and petal width. तुम्हें अपने आप पता चलेगा कि कैसा है. अब I hope सबको दिख रहा है. From here it is very smooth. From this point it is very smooth. But अगर तुम यहाँ जाके देखोगे तो यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा skewed दिख रहा है.
Yes, ma'am.
So we can simply say that there are certain values that are outside the range. So they are basically called as the outlier. So I'm not going to you right now this. Another pair plot, you will get to know. It's the same thing. बस फर्क क्या है वहां पर हम लोगों ने जो बनाया था that was the bar plot or the histogram plot. Over here they are the normal distribution plot. So see, red one is for Setosa, third one is second one is for the versicolor and the third one is Virginica. So तीनों class के behalf पे हमने बनाया है. और अगर तुम ध्यान से देखोगे all the scatter plots are of different colors. तो रेड वन सिटोसा के लिए है. तो सिटोसा इज अ डिफरेंट क्लास. तो सबको दिख रहा है सिटोसा सारे के सारे इकट्ठे हैं.
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, for versicolor and virginica are mixing each other. Can I say that versicolor or virginica might be misclassified? They can be misclassified because they are almost looking like that they belong to same class. देखो ये वाला जो ब्लू वाला ग्राफ है और फिर जो लाइट पर्पल वाला ग्राफ
Yes,
है
ma'am.
इसमें मेजर रीजन इज ऑफ सेम कलर. मेजर यूनियन है. दैट मीन्स दे कैन बी मिसक्लासिफाइड. तो अगर तुम सारे के सारे प्लॉट देखोगे तो सब प्लॉट में दे आर ऑलमोस्ट इन द सेम रीजन. सो वर्सिकलर एंड वर्जिनिका कैन गिव यू सम मिसक्लासिफिकेशंस. दिस इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज हीट मैप. I hope I'm left with only 4 minutes. कोई बात नहीं, मंडे को कंटिन्यू करेंगे. This is something called as heat map. 1 minute and after that I'll wind up. मैं इसके बाद सीधा अटेंडेंस दूंगी. ये आगे मैं नहीं कराऊंगी. अभी सिर्फ हीट मैप दिखा रही हूँ. Heat map is a kind of map that actually simply shows you how much amount of the data is being correlated. अब तक हमने जो ग्राफिकली निकाला वो तो निकाला. हीट मैप से बहुत अच्छे से पता चल जाता है. So just see. Heat map ranges from -1 से लेके +1 तक जाता है. हमने पियर्सन कोरिलेशन कोएफिशिएंट की बात भी करी थी. सो इट इज फ्रॉम -0.4 से 1 तक. So the value with -0.4 is least correlated. Nearing to 1 is highly correlated. So these ones, so they are the diagonal one, they are correlated to each other definitely because sepal length के साथ ही correlated होगा ज्यादा. sepal width के साथ correlated होगा. petal width के साथ correlated होगा. petal width के साथ सबसे ज्यादा correlated होगा. Right? So they are diagonal. All the diagonals are always 1. लेकिन below diagonal and above diagonal अगर तुम ध्यान से देखोगे, so this is 0.8. So 0.8, which is sepal length and petal width. It says sepal length and petal width are correlated. Sepal length and petal length are also correlated. Why these two are having maximum correlation despite the fact sepal length petal width के साथ बिल्कुल भी correlated नहीं है. Why these two are correlated and they are almost same? Why? Because they both are also correlated to each other. See, petal width, petal length 0.96. Getting my point, class?
Yes,
So this ribbon is actually showing you the different amount of colors. The lighter side is actually the maximum correlated. So lighter side, but this is 0.96, 0.96. So that means they both are highly correlated. So any one of the column value of these two can be easily dropped. अगर हम उसको drop कर देते हैं, so we know कि एक से काम चल जाएगा. So this is actually giving us a, I mean, using both the columns. वो बात अलग है कि पूरे RS data set में हम चारों columns को use करके चल रहे हैं. But अगर हम इसे ध्यान से देखें, so we can drop one of the column because it is not providing you any good amount of information. So अगर दोनों में से कोई एक भी चलेगा, you will have the best output. रीजन कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी कम हो जाएगी. अभी तक हम 4 वेरिएबल पे काम कर रहे थे, अब हम सिर्फ 3 वेरिएबल पे काम करेंगे, तो डेफिनेटली कॉम्प्यूटेशनल कॉस्ट कम होगी. क्लियर हुआ क्लास? हाउ वी आइडेंटिफाई वेदर दे आर कोरिलेटेड और नॉट?
yes, ma'am.
I hope we'll work it on Monday now. I'll take your attendance.